The whole town is talking about you. What you said and did was a sign of something big. A strange thing has been happening lately, and whether you realize it or not, people have started paying attention to you in ways they never did before. Some cannot explain it. Others are trying to put it into words. But what they keep coming back to is the same question. What changed? There was something about the way you spoke, something about the way you carried yourself, something about the quiet confidence in your actions that seemed different. You may have thought it was just another ordinary moment, another ordinary day, but to the people watching from a distance, it felt like a sign. Not a loud sign, not something dramatic, just a small but undeniable shift that made them stop and look twice. And if this feels strangely personal, stay with this, because there is something important here. The truth is that most transformations begin long before anyone notices them. They begin in silence. They begin during the seasons when nobody is clapping for you, when nobody understands what you're carrying, and when even you question whether anything is changing at all. Yet little by little, something inside you starts growing, a new perspective, a deeper understanding, a stronger sense of who you are. What people are reacting to now is not a sudden change. They are seeing the result of countless quiet moments that happened behind closed doors. They are witnessing the evidence of growth that took place when nobody was watching. That is why your words seem different. That is why your presence feels different. Something inside you matured before the outside world ever noticed. Maybe you felt this yourself. Maybe there have been moments recently when you paused and realized that your old reactions no longer fit who you are. Things that once upset you no longer hold the same power. Conversations that once drained you no longer pull you in. Situations that would have confused you months ago now seem clearer. These changes may appear small, but they reveal something much larger beneath the surface. Growth often arrives quietly. It does not always announce itself. Sometimes it appears through patience, sometimes through restraint, sometimes through the simple decision to keep moving forward, even when no one understands why. And strangely enough, those quiet choices are often the very things that leave the deepest impression on others. What many people do not understand is that every meaningful chapter begins with a subtle signal. Before a tree bears fruit, roots deepen underground. Before a sunrise fills the sky with light, the horizon changes almost invisibly. In the same way, what you recently said and what you recently did may have revealed far more than you intended. It showed that you are no longer standing in the same place emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Others sense it even if they cannot explain it. They feel that something important is unfolding in your story. The interesting part is that this is only the beginning. What comes next may help you understand why so many eyes seem drawn toward you right now. Don't miss what comes next. Not everyone notices a turning point while it is happening, because real change rarely arrives with a spotlight shining on it. More often it slips quietly into your life and settles into your habits, your thoughts, and your decisions before you even realize it is there. That is why the conversations surrounding you feel so unusual right now. People are not simply talking about what you said. They are talking about what your words revealed. There was a depth behind them, a calm certainty that could not be ignored. Even those who normally overlook things found themselves thinking about your perspective long after the moment had passed. Something about your presence lingered in their minds, and whether they admit it or not, it made them reflect on their own lives in a different way. What makes this even more remarkable is that you were probably not trying to impress anyone. You were not performing. You were not searching for approval. You were simply being yourself. And sometimes that is exactly what leaves the strongest impact. People are used to polished performances and carefully crafted images. They expect noise. They expect people to speak loudly to be heard. But there is something unforgettable about authenticity. When someone speaks from experience, when their words carry the weight of lessons learned through real life, others can feel it immediately. It reaches a place that rehearsed conversations never touch. That is why the response around you feels different. People are not reacting to a performance. They are reacting to something genuine. Perhaps there have been moments recently when you felt slightly disconnected from the version of yourself you used to be. Not in a negative way, but in the sense that old patterns no longer fit. You may find yourself valuing peace more than proving a point. You may find yourself listening more carefully and speaking more intentionally. You may even feel a little uncertain about where this new version of you is leading. That uncertainty is natural. Growth often feels unfamiliar because it carries you beyond what is comfortable. Yet hidden inside that unfamiliar feeling is evidence that you are expanding into something larger than your previous expectations. There is something important here, because the discomfort of growth is often the first sign that you are stepping into a new season of understanding. The fascinating part is that people are not only noticing who you are today, they are sensing who you are becoming. Sometimes others recognize our progress before we do. They see the confidence returning to our voice. They notice the patience in our actions. They feel the quiet strength that emerges after difficult experiences have taught their lessons. That is why the attention surrounding you feels so unusual. It is not really about one conversation or one action. Those moments simply revealed a deeper truth that has been developing for a long time. The story unfolding around you is not about sudden recognition. It is about the gradual emergence of someone who has been growing in ways that were invisible until now. And the deeper reason behind all of this may be closer than you think. Stay with this. The next part uncovers something even more meaningful. There are moments in life when the smallest actions create the biggest echoes, and what is happening around you now feels very much like one of those moments. You may remember the conversation, the decision, or the simple act that seemed ordinary at the time. Nothing about it felt historic. Nothing about it suggested that people would continue thinking about it afterward. Yet here you are, with the energy of that moment still moving through the minds of others. The reason is simple. People were not paying attention to the event itself. They were paying attention to what it revealed about you. For the first time, many of them saw a side of you that had always been there, but had remained hidden beneath expectations, assumptions, and old impressions. What they witnessed was not a new person. It was a clearer version of the person you have been becoming all along. One of the most powerful things a human being can do is grow without announcing it. In a world where everyone feels pressured to prove themselves, there is something deeply compelling about someone who simply evolves. No grand speeches, no constant explanations, just quiet progress. The kind that happens through reflection, patience, and experience. Think about how much you have carried that nobody fully understood. Think about the lessons that arrived through disappointment, uncertainty, waiting, and self-discovery. Every one of those moments shaped something inside you. They refined your perspective. They softened certain edges while strengthening others. Now, without even trying, you are expressing wisdom that was earned rather than borrowed. People can sense the difference, even if they cannot explain why your words seem to stay with them long after the conversation ends. What is especially interesting is that some people are feeling inspired by you without ever telling you. They may never send a message. They may never give you credit. They may never reveal how much your actions affected them. Yet your example is working quietly in the background of their lives. A single honest statement can encourage someone to trust themselves. A single act of kindness can remind someone not to give up on people. A single moment of courage can show someone that growth is possible. We often underestimate the influence we have because we are too close to our own journey to see it clearly. We focus on our flaws, our doubts, and the areas where we still want to improve. Meanwhile, others are noticing the strength, resilience, and authenticity that have become part of who we are. There is something important here, because understanding this changes the way you see your own story. And perhaps that is the deeper message hidden beneath all the attention. This was never really about becoming the center of conversation. It was about becoming aligned with yourself. The more genuine you become, the more your presence naturally carries meaning. The more you trust your own voice, the more others feel encouraged to trust theirs. The more you embrace your path, the less you need outside validation to confirm your worth. That is why what happened recently feels significant. It was not just a moment. It was a reflection of an inner transformation that has been unfolding for much longer than anyone realizes. And in the next part, we will explore why this transformation seems to be creating a connection that reaches far beyond what you can currently see. Don't miss what comes next. Sometimes the most meaningful connections are formed long before a single word is spoken about them. They begin in the quiet spaces between experiences, in the moments when one person's growth unknowingly gives another person permission to grow as well. That may be part of what is happening around you right now. The conversations people are having are not only about your actions or your words, they are about the feeling those moments created. There was something in your energy that reminded people of possibility, not the loud kind that demands attention, but the steady kind that gently changes the atmosphere of a room. When someone begins living with greater clarity, others often sense it before they understand it. They feel drawn toward it because it reflects something they may be searching for within themselves. You may not realize how rare it is for someone to remain true to themselves while continuing to evolve. Many people believe growth requires becoming someone completely different. In reality, the strongest transformations often involve becoming more fully who you already are. Think about the qualities that have quietly strengthened inside you over time. The patience that developed during waiting seasons. The understanding that emerged from confusion. The confidence that slowly replaced self-doubt. None of these arrived overnight. They were built one experience at a time, often during periods when it seemed like nothing was happening at all. Yet now those invisible changes are visible through the way you speak, the way you listen, and the way you carry yourself. People are responding to that authenticity because authenticity has a way of cutting through noise and reaching something deeper. There is also a reason why this attention feels different from ordinary recognition. It is not rooted in achievement alone. Achievements can impress people for a moment, but character leaves a lasting impression. What others are noticing is not simply what you accomplished. They are noticing how you handled challenges, how you treated people, how you remained steady through uncertainty, and how you continued moving forward, even when the path was unclear. These are the things that stay in people's minds. Long after specific details are forgotten, they remember how someone made them feel. They remember the example that was set without being forced. They remember the calm strength that appeared when it would have been easier to give up. Stay with this, because the heart of the message is beginning to reveal itself. The deeper truth is that your journey has become larger than your own perspective of it. What once felt like isolated experiences are now connecting into a story that carries meaning not only for you, but for the people around you as well. Every challenge taught something. Every delay revealed something. Every season of uncertainty prepared something. Looking back, the pieces are beginning to form a picture that was impossible to see while you were living through it. And as this picture becomes clearer, so does the reason people cannot stop talking about what you said and did. They are witnessing the visible signs of an invisible journey. In the final part, everything comes together, and the message that has been quietly unfolding from the beginning will finally make complete sense. There is a beautiful realization waiting at the end of all this, and it is simpler than most people expect. The reason your words carried weight, the reason your actions stood out, and the reason people seem unable to stop thinking about them, is not because you suddenly became someone extraordinary overnight. It is because you finally allowed more of your true self to be seen. For a long time, parts of your strength lived beneath the surface. Your experiences shaped you quietly. Your lessons settled into your heart without demanding recognition. Your growth happened in places where no audience existed. Yet every step mattered. Every challenge contributed something valuable. And now, without forcing anything, the person you have been becoming is naturally beginning to shine through. What people are noticing is authenticity. What they are responding to is truth. When you look back on your journey, you may realize that many of the moments that felt confusing at the time were actually preparing you for greater clarity. The waiting taught patience. The uncertainty taught trust. The setbacks taught resilience. The questions taught wisdom. None of those experiences were wasted. They became part of the foundation that supports who you are today. This is why your recent words and actions carried such meaning. They were not isolated moments. They were the visible expression of everything you have learned along the way. Even if others only saw a single conversation or a single decision, what they were really witnessing was the result of years of unseen growth, gradually coming into focus. Perhaps the most important thing to remember is that you do not need to chase attention, approval, or validation. The message hidden within this entire story points in a different direction. It points inward. Real confidence comes from knowing who you are without needing constant confirmation from the outside world. Real peace comes from trusting your path, even when not everyone understands it. Real fulfillment comes from continuing to grow while remaining connected to the values and truths that matter most to you. The people talking about you today may eventually move on to other conversations. That is the nature of life. But the growth that brought you here remains. The understanding you gained remains. The strength you developed remains. Those are things nobody can take away. And so the story comes full circle. The whole town may be talking about you, but the deeper meaning was never about the town. It was about the quiet transformation that happened within you. It was about discovering that growth does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives through small choices, honest words, patient steps, and moments of courage that seem insignificant until much later. If there is one thing to carry forward from this message, let it be this. Trust the changes that are unfolding within you. Honor the journey that brought you here. Continue moving forward with openness, humility, and confidence. The person you are becoming is not separate from who you have always been. It is simply a fuller expression of it. And that realization brings something more valuable than attention ever could. It brings clarity, peace, and the quiet certainty that you are exactly where you need to be.